You're listening to the Rough and Tumble podcast. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to our Patreon. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify. You can listen to us on Google Play and soon to be iTunes. This is episode 4 of the Rough and Tumble podcast. We're going to be talking about 52 blocks or jailhouse rock, another fighting style that we kind of discovered. We'll be talking about some other really, really exciting things. Let's get into the episode.
You're listening to the Rough and Tumble podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dude, so what do you think of the new setup?
I think it's different. It took a lot of getting used to because I'm not used to sitting on this side of the room.
Yeah, that's true.
But the table is huge, so we've got plenty of room for at least 2 guests.
Oh, we've got even more room because there's another leave over there, and we can expand to it. And
whenever you posted about there being more leaves for this table, I felt like you had just learned that tables had leaves that you could extend them because you keep using the word over and over again. You're like, did you know that you can actually make these tables bigger?
They're called leaves.
They're called leaves.
No, I'm not that stupid. No, I'm just excited about it. It's a badass table.
It is a badass table.
I mean, it's kind of a piece of shit, but that's part of the reason that it's awesome for us and what we're doing right now.
It is. I didn't expect it to be this nice. I mean, this is rich mahogany. You should probably put some ink oil over the top of it, really smooth it out, get some pledge, polish it up.
Some pledge. So we've got 2 really, really exciting things going on today. First of all, we have sound effects.
Yeah.
Second of all, Jonny Wester, that's me, won his submission-only black belt match last night at Sub 100 Pro. So the thing that we came up with, when one of us wins a match, the other one has to introduce them in extravagant and flamboyant style. So, Mitch, give me your best go.
Well, I'm very happy to introduce you on this episode because I know how hard you've worked to get this victory. You literally lost every fight that you've ever had. And so I know how big of a deal it was for you to finally win. And it was your first black belt victory, which is apparently a big deal. The guy that you fought was super tough. The submission that you got on him, I'm not 100% sure is a jiu-jitsu move. I've watched kids in my kids class get it on each other. I thought you handled victory very well. You didn't over-celebrate. As soon as I saw you get your hand raised, I was immediately disappointed because you went before I did, and then I competed right after that. And obviously, since you're not doing an introduction to me, everybody knows exactly how my fight went. Somebody got the submission. It wasn't me.
Well, here's the thing. I'm still proud of you. I'm proud of me. But most of all, I'm proud that you didn't wear one of our patches whenever you competed last night.
I had a really, really good idea. And the weigh-ins were not exactly what I expected them to be because I've done events like this, like Fight to Win and stuff like that, which I should mention I also lost and got submitted there too. There's a trend. I'm probably just going to stop competing now.
Dude, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. As the black belt that's won a match, you gotta surprise them with white belt moves.
See, I didn't think
they're not expecting white belt moves in a black belt match.
For 2 years, I've been trying to do black belt moves, and it's not working.
Leandro Lowe, you can call me if you need some coaching.
Jonny got what we in the business call a reverse chicken wing.
The reverse chicken wing. Here's like my thought process in that was okay, so I was doing great. I felt like all the way up until that point. I took his back off of the Kimura trap, which I was really excited about because I finally hit that in competition. Took his back, popped my knee in that process, and then he escaped the back, came up into side, past my guard into side control, And I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble right now. And then I remembered it's sub only. So I was like, oh, I'm really not in that much trouble. Take a big deep breath. And that was his, you know how whenever people's shoulder just gets a little bit too far over, you'll hit that roll over. That honestly was my intention to start with, is I wanted to catch his shoulder and try and roll him over the top. If anything else, just create space. As soon as I did, I see that wrist. I'm like, damn, I can create a little bit of space here. Because, dude, 10 times out of 10, I don't finish that. I think that's actually the first time I ever finished that submission.
It's the first time it's ever been done in competition.
I probably.
So I give you kudos to that. You set the precedent. It's like the first time that guy got a naked Ezekiel in an MMA fight.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened last night.
I'll take it.
Well, you got the victory, and I know you were repping that particular move leading up to this event. I know you and Daniel spent a lot of time on the mats just putting yourself into bad positions and then hitting the reverse chicken.
I'm all about, dude, I told you, stupid submissions from bad positions. That's my DVD, dude.
That's going to be.
That confirms it. I just realized that. Holy shit.
It's called competition proven. You've literally proven your competition moves in real life. And now you can put that on the intro to the YouTube video advertising your new DVD.
Showing how effective it is. If only I had a video that actually you could see the Americana happening.
Yeah.
It was like I was facing literally to the only side of the stage that there wasn't a crowd.
I know. Yeah, the angle that I was at, I was like, I saw you going for it, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a great way to reverse this position and get on top, and then maybe do a real submission from there. And then in Jeremy's defense, one, he's super tough. Two, my elbows are fucked.
Yeah.
Like from 12 years of jiu-jitsu. So that move has worked on me before. And I'm going to give this individual a shout out. And he's probably going to get a raging boner just from hearing this, because he's a young, handsome blue belt that trains at Westside. His name is Jason King. And the move that you got on him, on Jeremy, Jason has finished me with that. And Jason has a notebook that he keeps in his back pocket. And then he also has a special pocket inside of his gi that he keeps the notebook in. And anytime he submits a black belt, he writes it down.
Writes a check mark.
And then never stops talking about it for the next 6 years.
This one's for you, Jason.
And what's funny about it is because I'd passed his guard and was coming around, and I wasn't, it was kind of one of those bullshit training matches where you're just kind of goofing off, and I'm just wrecking him, literally destroying him. Like I was setting him back to the Stone Age with my moves. And he caught that. And I remember thinking, like, what is this guy doing? Like, go learn some jiu-jitsu, kid. And then my elbow felt like it was going to explode. And so it wasn't even on my shoulder. So I think, honestly, that's probably what caught Jeremy off guard. Was that particular move puts a lot of pressure on the inside of the elbow.
It does. And I told you, like, I've been working out. One of my favorite things is whenever people, I always look for the back. And so whenever I get to side control, I don't like people being flat in side control. I get that like rear side control where they're facing away from me and I have their back on my chest. One of the things that I do from there to prevent them from continuing rolling away is I'll catch the elbow and just pick it up off the ground. And I'd been thinking about that because I've been drilling it recently and teaching it. And so in that Americana, and I never get to that point really where I can finish that Americana properly because, like when you roll, it usually slips out. But I was so focused on picking up that elbow and keeping him from rolling away. That's where I noticed it got really tight on him. And so I was like, oh, that's the trick. I'm going to pick that elbow up.
This is how you finish this move that has never been done in a black belt match.
Right. Well, dude, I'm just, reinventing the game. That's all.
Obviously.
It's innovation.
It is innovation. It's going back to moves that you were doing as a white belt. And you're bringing it back to the black belt divisions.
But
there's going to be a whole movement of, like, you remember whenever Berimbolo got really big, like all the white belts and blue belts were like, they said, fuck guard passing. I'm not going to worry about doing anything relevant in jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to learn how to Berimbolo and do that forever.
Yeah.
that's what's that's about to happen. Like Reddit's about to blow up.
People are gonna pull side control.
They're gonna pull side control.
Once they get a hold of my DVD, they're gonna be pulling armbar. That's one of my better ones.
They're gonna give their arm lock up.
Yeah, and just so they can knee bar you.
Yeah.
Watch out, everybody. Protect your knees. It's coming.
I liked how it's like I got tunnel vision whenever you were attacking it, and I zoomed in on your face, and then when the ref stopped the match, the look on your face was, what is time up? Like, because it's like you couldn't even believe that it ended up in a submission.
I was actually like, whenever it happened, he like yelled tap, and then I felt it move like it wasn't like a big hard pop, but I felt like it kind of popped, and I was like, oh my God, are you okay? And his mouth was bleeding, and so I was like, oh man, I headbutted. I felt bad. I did, and he was so frustrated. I would be for good reason. I would be too.
And I don't want Jeremy to think that like we're just talking shit, because him and his brother both are super tough, and Mark had a really good fight as well against Luis Rubalcaba. So, but he went to a draw in his match. But it's like I told everybody who texted me after I lost, you can't win them all. It just gets to the point where I just copied and pasted that into every text message. Hey, you can't win them all.
I can't, I appreciate the like people supporting me and stuff, and that helps. It gets overwhelming sometimes. Like sometimes I get, okay, I get it. Like, leave me alone for a little bit. Let me sulk.
I'm gonna be fine. And I wasn't even mad after I lost my match, because in my opinion, it was a 50-50 between me and Eric, because we have very similar styles. I do want to mention that Eric is a black belt in judo, and I threw him about 25 feet over his head. So,
oh man.
So the first 30 seconds of our match was really looking good for me. And then right up until the point where I turtled up into the fetal position, and then he ended up on my back.
Yeah, right. You were doing well until you didn't.
I know.
That's really the bottom line.
I was kicking his ass right up to the point where I got submitted.
Yeah. We have another Patreon shout out.
Do we?
Yeah, Scott Weaver. He's I appreciate his patronage a lot, actually, because he came from us posting on Reddit, which means
really?
Fully organic.
So he's an actual
follower.
fan.
Yeah, he's an actual fan. He's not afraid that I'm gonna beat his ass on the mats. Yeah. If he does.
90% of our fans are just people that we train with.
Yeah.
And then
which is fine. That's good.
Plus our moms.
Yeah. So. I told my mom not to listen because I was talking trash about her last episode.
I haven't heard from my aunt, so I don't guess that she heard the episode. Listening? Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Scott Weaver. I'm so happy that we have that sound effect now.
So what's even funnier about that sound effect for people who don't know is, first of all, Jonny and I had come up with that before Submission Hunter Pro did. And so last night, we've been making jokes about doing this since the first episode, like months ago. Turns out that's the sound effect that Submission Hunter Pro plays when you win by submission.
So the whole freaking night, all we heard was Jonny Wester
over and over again. So it was a good event, and if you're not familiar with Submission Hunter Pro, you should check them out. Garcia Promotions, Eric Garcia puts it on. It was a really good promotion. I just don't know why they chose to. I don't know why the announcer didn't think that maybe he should change his announcement from his strip club to what he was doing, because he literally said every time, "Welcome to the stage."
Yeah,
and I'm like, maybe, because he was introducing kids like that.
Yeah.
And I just kept waiting for him to say, "Welcome to the stage, Cinnamon." He's going to have a slip.
He trails off on his words like that too, because he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got concessions."
I know. And he's like, "No, I went to announcer school. I know what I'm doing." Okay?
Yeah.
You're not in the biz.
Do you want the stripper voice or do you want the auctioneer?
I've only got two. I've only got auctioneer and stripper voice.
That was all because of a shout out to Scott. He makes guitars, which I think is really cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We should make one for the podcast, and we'll hang it up on the wall, and then we can take pictures from the podcast and put it up.
There you go, Scott. I'm waiting.
Scott, send us a guitar.
Yeah, he had a...
Is it Scott or Sean?
Scott.
Scott, okay.
Yeah. He had some subject matter for us to go over too. Which
That's awesome.
He messaged me on Instagram and was like, dude, you need to talk about this. Had some subject matter suggested matching academy gis, gyms that like force you to buy their gi or their apparel, their stuff. Blue belt testing, doing like a testing for blue belt, and then just cult-like behaviors, stuff like that. I think the matching academy gis, I think that, you know, like I kind of have an issue with it, and then I kind of don't at the same time, because like, you know, you're just trying to make money. We've all got to figure out ways to make money, and like, you think at Atos they have
Atos,
whatever.
I'm just making up words.
Yeah. I don't read the Bible, dude. I don't know what it's called. And especially don't read it in Portuguese.
Well, it obviously shows you know something, because you have to know about that for you to.
Well, if you've listened to Andre Galvo talk, you have to know about it.
Yeah, he does talk about it a lot.
But like, they're all wearing the same gear. I get it. Like, people are gonna buy it.
Yep.
So why not sell it?
Well, and the thing is like with Atos and the University of Jiu-Jitsu, the Mendez brothers.
Art of Jiu-Jitsu.
Art of Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay, AOJ. Yeah. Because they do the same thing.
Yeah.
But AOJ has a contract or whatever with Ruka. Mm-hmm. And so that's where their stuff comes from. So it's like a partnership deal there.
Right. They go a little bit, some of it, they only allow white gis, which is understandable because they have white mats.
Right. So it goes with the theme of the gym.
Well, and also keeping it clean, because the black and blue
gets all over the mats.
Yeah, those have. But I've heard also that like they've fired instructors for like having long facial hair.
Get out of town.
Yeah. There was a guy that I wish I should find. I believe it was a Reddit thread. A guy was talking about he was an instructor at AOJ, and they fired him because he had too long of facial hair.
You know, that business model only works in a place like that.
Yeah.
Because people don't start training at AOJ for any other reason other than who owns the gym.
Right.
And those people have made their mark in jiu-jitsu. They're not going anywhere. So you can enforce ridiculous rules like that. But if you and I did that,
right,
nobody would sign. Everybody would talk shit about the gym and nobody would sign up.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, I've always, in my gym, I have a philosophy in business that I shouldn't, the goal is not for me to figure out how to make you buy something. The goal is for me to figure out how to make you want to buy something from me.
Exactly.
And so I believe that if my product is good enough, if my jiu-jitsu, my teaching, my gym, my culture in the gym is good enough, then I shouldn't have to make you do that.
And also, we have at Westside, we have Westside MMA gis, we are, for the jiu-jitsu program, but nobody makes them. You don't have to buy that. But the reason that we sell so many of them is because the person who's coming in trying jiu-jitsu for the first time, they don't know anything about gis. They don't know where to buy gis. They don't know what brands are good. I get asked all the time, like, hey man, what's a good brand to buy? Yeah. Offering an academy gi like that really takes a lot of the thought out of having to think about that. So we do sell a lot of the Westside gis to the beginners because it takes the thinking process out. You're not dealing with a lot of thrifty shoppers who are going out there and going to Amazon and looking at the best deals and this is, they just go, you know what, just take my money. It's going to be easier for me to not to have to think about this. Like, you already offer all the products. It's easy that way. But we don't have a rule that says you have to wear our academy gi. And then even the higher rank guys, the color belts, they'll buy them too because they love the gym. They want to have the patches and stuff on there and they want to support the gym. So they buy them, like you said,
right? Not
forcing them to do it, but they want to do it. I think that we have some of the coolest t-shirts that are offered. I think a lot of, like, some of the ideas that they come up with at the gym for t-shirt ideas are just hilarious.
You guys do have some good t-shirts.
They're really awesome. And I think that Matt Hamilton is the one that primarily designs those things.
I've always wondered that because you guys had a long time ago when you guys had catch wrestling at the gym. You guys had a t-shirt that was the Wu-Tang t-shirt. Catch rolls everything around me.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, god damn it. I know. I was so jealous of that shirt because I was like, I want to do catch wrestling at my gym just so I can come up with that shirt.
Yeah, so I wasn't there when catch wrestling was being offered. Billy Robinson was the coach. And if those of you out there listening, If you don't know who Billy Robinson is, go look him up. He passed away several years ago, but he was a founding father of catch wrestling. He was from England. He did some amazing things for the sport of catch wrestling. And I don't know the full story, but, you know, coincidentally, he lived in Arkansas. I think maybe his daughter or somebody had lived in Arkansas, so he was living here and ended up working at the gym. You know, I mean, this living legend of a catch wrestler from England was living in Arkansas and teaching at Westside. Rolly was wearing that shirt not too long ago, so it's funny you bring it up. And I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I realized what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's not, you can't find those shirts anymore.
Right.
You know, only a few people still have them. And so it is a really awesome shirt.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure.
We had a really cool one that had Mike Tyson on it, the Mike Tyson Punch Out Digital, and it said Westside MMA. I had a lot of people. I would travel to other gyms and people would see that shirt. I had like 2 or 3 people that asked me to send, they gave me money to send them one back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It went out really quick. One thing that I love about our gym, and you have the same thing also, because here's the thing, and I don't want to make fun of other gyms who do this, but like a lot of gyms, MMA gyms and jiu-jitsu gyms will feed off of, or they'll utilize the whole like, Spartan warrior,
yeah,
you know, and
I'll
so
make
like,
fun of gyms that do that. Do better.
Do
like,
better.
Damn it.
Yeah. And
like, just do better. Come on, guys.
but there was a time when I was a young white belt, because the gym I started at in Louisiana would have stuff like that. You know, we had a shirt that said like iron sharpens iron. And I was like, man, that's super. Because I was young and so like I wanted everybody to know I trained and I wanted people to think I was a badass. And I've mentioned this on other past episodes where now I avoid talking about it at all costs.
Yeah.
Like when people are like, what happened to your ears? I was like, well, I was born with like this. So you just pointed out to everybody that I have a birth defect.
Yeah.
I'm also an Audi. I'm not. That's fucking gross. Like, how does your belly button face out?
Disgusting.
They
don't talk to me.
They didn't actually cut the umbilical cord. They just plucked it off. That's
Man,
what.
I need to make more room back here for myself.
You're in a cage.
Yeah.
Going back to that, you know, I first saw the whole matching gi thing. I coached at a Gracie Baja gym for a small amount of time, and it was like that as well. Like, and the owner who owned it was a young blue belt, or well, he wasn't young, but he was a blue belt, and he had kind of bought into it. But the thing is Gracie Baja started offering that idea for a franchise is good for business owners who are not creating their own gyms, because it again takes all the thinking out of it. Here's our t-shirts. Here's our testing standards. Here's everything we want. And then all you have to do is just cookie cutter it and open up a storefront.
Right.
And then you've got everything you need.
Again, like my goal for the gym is to make it autonomous, like for it to work on its own, and for it to, so that I can spend as much time on the mats as I can. I don't want to be behind the desk. That's not why I got into the sport.
And so,
you know?
how, and I'll ask you this, and Daniel's probably the one I should ask this to, but how much of your profit every month honestly comes from merchandise?
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
Not much.
Not much at all.
And so when it comes to a situation like that, when you're outside of the Atos bubble and you're outside of the AOJ bubble and even the Gracie Baja bubble, and you're making these rules where, hey, you have to wear our gi and you have to wear our shirts, stuff like that. I get you're trying to make money. But when you're nickel and diming people like that, what makes money is their monthly tuition.
Yeah.
And when you nickel and dime people like that, it's going to get people they're just not going to want to be a part of it, especially when they find another gym within a 25-mile range that doesn't require that and is equally priced, who's also a black belt. Like, you're just putting yourself in a position, especially when you're competing against other gyms in the area, where any reason you can give a student to look elsewhere, they're going to. You know? And then they're going to talk shit about you when they sign up at the other gym. You know, and then that breeds negativity in the community. And so, like, you could have an amazing gym and a really good atmosphere, but all it takes is one person to go to another gym and talk shit, spread the rumor, and now everybody's like, oh man, did you hear that Gravitas, like, you have to wear their uniform, you have to call Jonny master.
You do, by the way.
I do.
Yeah.
I only do it because you asked me to do it.
Right.
And now that you have won a black belt Submission 100 Pro match, I'm just going to start calling you Chicken Wing.
Chicken
That's
Wing.
your new nickname. It's like Littlefoot, but
I don't know, man. I see both sides of it. You know, like, there is this, we have to make money at what we do. And everybody's going to find that differently. And you have to remember too that everybody gets into jiu-jitsu for different reasons. And again, my personal philosophy with like things that involve the gym, say like designs of t-shirts, the design of my logo, I wanted it something ambiguous that you can attach your own meaning to, right? Like when you see that my logo is an anchor with some like some laurels on the side of it. It was like the only thing I learned how to draw whenever I did my tattoo apprenticeship. It's just something that's a little bit ambiguous that people they recognize that it's gravitas and they can attach their own meaning to it. I use that to attract people from all different types of life. And I think whenever you create a business model that creates a uniform system like that you narrow your scope. You do. Because people are going to come in that are there for other reasons and not for the discipline and the structure and all of that. Like they come in because they want the camaraderie, they want the friendship, they want to hang out. And whenever they have to make sure they bow to every black belt they see and don't look him straight in the eyes and that kind of stuff, then they lose that idea of brotherly, camaraderie and stuff.
I think there's a lot of old school mentality that is slowly going the way of the buffalo. Shout out to MXPX. So I do have friends that came from backgrounds that were structured that way. Even I came from that background. And now having moved into a more laid back, when I owned my gym, I kept a lot of the old school ways of doing things. But as I progressed and got older and more experienced, I personally just stopped caring about all that stuff. But there are groups out there in these smaller communities, I guess, that grew up on that where, like you said, like you don't ask higher ranks to train. I would never train then because, if I was only training with the people I wanted to train with, if I was being extremely selfish and was like, no, I'm only training with the people that I want to train with, I would train with the same 3 people all the time.
Yeah, and I would probably tend to choose the easy rounds.
Yeah, I would absolutely,
If there was a blue belt that was beating my ass, I wouldn't go roll with him.
No, and it paid off because training with white and blue belts,
yeah,
which is how you got so good at the chicken wing. So, and it goes back to, we talk about the white gis, like you're like, they only allow white gis. AOJ has a niche. So they have only white gis and then their no-gi stuff is all black, which is
that is kind of weird.
Weird because we talked about how, white and blue or blue and black gis will leave marks on the mats, but then all their no-gi stuff is straight black. And so it's like, well, is it that really the reason? No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing about like Atos, they've developed a brand and now it's a flag. And so now whenever they go to, that name has been built around guys like Josh Hinger and Andre Gaval and all those guys. And so now when they go to competitions and people see the Atos patch or they see the Atos no-gi stuff, they're like, oh shit. Like they've developed that.
That's true.
So now guys, I don't mean to say that it's pulling the tap out thing, because back in the day when tap out was brand new and it wasn't the douchebag apparel that it is now or that it became. When people saw that, they were like, you remember Full Contact Fighter, that apparel?
Yeah.
Like when I would see people wearing that, I was like, oh man, those guys, they have to train. There's no, because nobody was wearing it. But then it became commercial and now you've got Extreme Couture, all that. But the thing is people want to wear those brands now that are sold by those particular gyms because it puts them into it makes an assumption about who they are and the category that they fall into. If we were at AGF and some black belt stepped on the mat with an Atos rash guard, I'm going to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, not
maybe
because
I should reconsider.
Yeah, I should go back to a different division. And that's what they've built with that, I think, and so it has.
You can order those on the internet.
Yeah, I'm going to start.
Yeah.
It's twofold. I'm not sold either way on it because, like you said, they have a right to make money.
Yeah.
And when you're in a business like that, look at car sales. Look at all the weird, crazy gimmicks that you see in car sales. You got to make money. But like I said, you even said a small percentage of your profit comes from merchandise sales. And so it's about the long game. How is this going to affect your student base if you're forcing that stuff on them? But I think there's a way you can develop a culture within your gym, like you said, that makes people want to buy that stuff anyways.
Yeah.
So why force it?
Yep. That's part of the fun to me too of owning a business.
Well, hitting on the other thing that he talked about with blue belt testing and stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Testing. When it comes to belt testing, so we don't belt test.
We've talked about that.
Yeah. Now we do testing for the kids, but we don't do adult testing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are gyms. There's a lot of organizations out there. The organization that I came from, and the thing is I don't have a problem diming out organizations. I don't, because what are they going to do? Come to my house? You know what I mean? Like, I seriously doubt they're going to make it that big of a deal. And they're going to just be like, oh, fuck that guy. Well, you know what? If you heard me, that means you were listening to our podcast.
Yeah.
So joke's on you.
Subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, that's right. If you donate $100 to our Patreon, I'll let you come on the show and just say, fuck you.
And defend yourself. Yeah.
When I was in the Pedro Sauer organization.
Okay, yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for Master Sauer. I have a lot of respect for his jiu-jitsu and his organization and everything. But they do blue belt testing, but they don't do purple, brown, or black belt. Or they do black belt testing and blue belt testing. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was weird. When I did my quote unquote blue belt test, right? So there's 88 techniques that you have to learn for your blue belt. And it's like this little sheet and you go through them and you learn them throughout your time. And then when it came for me to get promoted to blue belt, I didn't have to do any of it. You know, it was one of those things where it's like, here's the blue belt test. But then the black belt from our organization, who was under Master Pedro Sauer, my instructor's word was enough. Mm-hmm. So when my instructor said, hey, I want to promote these two guys to blue belt at this seminar, he wasn't like, okay, cool, let's get him in front of the class and make him do all 88 techniques. It was just like, okay, well, I take your word for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what's the fucking point?
Maybe as a structure for they had like a set of things that you needed to know. Is that
there was 88 techniques that you had to know.
Maybe just as a structure to base it on, and then whoever Pedro Sauer promotes the black belt, he has the understanding.
Well, what's even funnier about that is the story behind the blue belt test that Pedro Sauer has in his organization, because he's been questioned about, like, how did you come up with the testing stuff? Basically, when he moved to America and started doing jiu-jitsu in Salt Lake City and stuff like that, and I guess Americans were used to like katas and curriculums and things like that. Yeah. And so a lot of his students were wanting to know those things, like, what do I need to know? What moves do I need to know to get to blue belt? He phoned back to Brazil to Master Helio, asked him, and they just sent him like a random list of moves. I don't remember all the details, but that's how the blue belt test. And like Pedro Sauer's even said this. He's like, the blue belt test that we have is just it's a list of techniques that I got from Master Helio years and years and years ago, when people started asking me what techniques they should know for blue belt, because that's what Americans do. Yeah. Americans are used to karate at the time, where you learn these 10 katas and then you get your black belt or you get your belt. And so they were asking those questions and he didn't have an answer. So he created something. When you promote for your black belt, you have to do the testing too. And you go through all the self-defense techniques and all the different knife defense and gun defenses, which I think are pretty cool. And I think they're fun. And I've even started I've started messing around with weapons defenses again and doing a little bit more self-defense stuff. Just my mind has shifted into a little kind of a combatives place as aside from sports jiu-jitsu right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you do that, and I think at the black belt level, it's a ceremonial formality kind of thing. Yeah. Like, it's a way of everybody kind of making a ceremony out of it. But the blue belt testing, I'm of the belief that nobody you can't tell somebody these are the new moves you need to get to blue belt. The reality of it is to tell somebody that everybody in your gym needs to know these particular moves or else they're not a blue belt is silly, because your game is totally different from mine. Right. I don't do chicken wings. I don't even have much of a guard. I'm more of a guard passer. And so, but then to tell me, if my coach came and said, hey, Mitch, you're going to be testing for your brown belt, you need to know 7 moves from De La Riva, 7 moves from reverse De La Riva, 5 moves from spider guard. What good is that? Right. Assuming I wasn't an instructor, assuming I wasn't going to be an instructor or a coach, I was just recreational. What's the benefit? I'm never going to use those techniques. I understand there's benefit in knowing them because you can use that knowledge to defeat it and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But it doesn't make me a brown belt.
I don't think that not everybody's brain works that way either. Like they can't categorize things like that. They can't articulate what they're doing a lot of the time. There's a lot of moves that I'm doing that I'm like, dude, I have no fucking clue how I'm getting there. Yeah. But I'm doing it. and like through time I'll start to be able to articulate it because I'm teaching as well, so that helps. But not everybody, their brain just doesn't work like that. Some people see shapes, some people see numbers,
I think that belt testing is good for kids because it provides goals for them.
Structure,
Exactly, which is what you want to look for when you get into martial arts for your kids, when you put your kids in martial arts.
I make my kids do testing. I was thinking about this actually the other day, and just thinking about testing in general, like it's a big deal for the kids, and not all the kids get to compete. Not all of them want to compete. A lot of their parents don't want them to compete, and that's fine. But they do the testing, and that's like almost a form of competing for them. Yeah. Because they're so nervous, they make it a big deal, even though it's not. It's the same moves that we've been doing in class. I don't let them test if I don't think that they can do the moves. I basically put them through testing the week of, and they, it's like to make sure that they're all ready. And so it's not a big deal. They make it a big deal though.
Right.
And so it puts pressure on them, and you want to see how they react under that pressure. I think we're kind of doting on this subject though. I think we're going in circles with it. Let's get on to the 52 blocks, which kind of goes into the katas too. Yeah. Because they do so 52 blocks is there's two different names for what we're going to be talking about. Jailhouse rock is a term used to describe any kind of structured fighting style that comes up in the U.S. penitentiary system. But apparently, if you ask anybody that was in the U.S. penitentiary system in the 70s, if 52 blocks is jailhouse rock, they'll tell you no, it's much different.
Which is weird, because when I Googled jailhouse rock,
they come up together.
Right. And it says also known as 52 blocks.
Yeah. And I'd found a really good article. I need to start writing this stuff down. You remember I was telling you, like, I feel like we're just doing book reports.
Yeah.
This is one of the things, because I was when we were doing the rough and tumble thing, I'm reading through it, and I was like, man, he's citing all of his sources. I was like, remember when we had to do bibliographies and stuff? Yep. I was like, man, I'm so glad I don't have to do that shit anymore. And then I forgot to even mention the name of the book that I was reading.
Way to go.
That guy wrote. So real quick, I won't mention it because I didn't write down the title. So whatever. All right. Sorry, guys.
Just go Google it.
Yeah, go Google that guy that I talked about in the last episode. Anyways, but so whatever site it was, it had a really good write-up on it. And it was talking about, the name is really controversial, like where the 52 blocks name came from, which to me is obvious. Like in their katas, they have 52 different blocks. Mm-hmm. They say though that there's that it might have come, like the reason they came up with 52 of them was because they game 52 card pickup. The prank, or like, hey, you ever play 52 card pickup, and you throw a bunch of cards everywhere, and it's a form of deception, which is like a common theme in 52 blocks.
So
and
is there 52 blocks?
Different styles vary. I think so. As far as they have what's called the program, which is like their would be equivalent to a curriculum, and it's 52 blocks. They argue the other one too. The other controversial name origin was the fitness game where you throw down a card and then you do that many push-ups, or you throw
Never heard of it.
Really?
Nope.
Are you serious?
I know.
Dude, I thought you were fucking with me. And
no.
Like, they do that in the military all the time too. Like, I thought
didn't know you were a subject matter expert in the military.
Yeah, well, listen, I thought it was like a game that they would play when they're bored in the military. But yeah, so you assign an exercise, a bodyweight exercise, to a spade or spades and the hearts, and a different one for whatever, and then whatever card you throw down, you do 5 sit-ups. You throw down another card, you do 3 push-ups. And by the end you're doing a fucking shit ton. So yeah, they say that's one of the things that it came from. And so because it came up in the penitentiary, like all of this is likely, because they're playing cards. That's about the only thing that they can do. And so it makes sense that it might come from that.
Yeah. And I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who has 2 brothers in jail. That's true.
Yeah. Do you really have 2 brothers in jail?
Yeah, my brothers are. My dad is a retired police officer. God bless him. Yeah, both of my brothers are repeat offenders, and which the best part about my brothers being, so my youngest brother he just has a problem with drinking and then getting behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
And then getting pulled over afterwards. It's not a big deal if you don't get pulled over. But my
Or
other brother,
kill anyone.
or kill anyone, which he hasn't done yet, or himself.
We're not promoting drinking and driving.
I know, but my other younger brother, who's just below me, he is a convicted felon, and he's never mentioned 52 blocks in the prison system. He was living with my sister for a little bit. Him and his girlfriend were living with my sister and her husband for a while, and then money started coming up missing out of my sister's bank account. And it went on for like a month or two because my sister was like, oh, it must be my husband who's taking the money out. And then her husband was like, oh, it must be my wife that's doing it. And then finally they were both like, what did you take out $500 for? And he's like, I didn't do that. I thought you did. And they're like, God damn it. So then, and my brother-in-law is a police officer. So like he went and found the ATM and then pulled the security footage. And like, there's my brother on video taking money out of the account. And he still said he didn't do it. He still was like, it was the these aren't my pants excuse. And, which is super common within the penitentiary system also, you know.
You ever watch Run, Ronnie, Run?
Yes.
Oh God. I was here and they built the house around me.
I love David Cross. And those guys. Maynard James Keenan from Tool is in that actually.
Is he really? What character does he play?
He played. He was in there was a band that was playing at some point in there, and he played one of the members of the band.
Okay. I don't remember that scene, but I can picture it a little bit.
It was a great movie.
Dude, one of the most underrated movies ever.
It really is.
It's Joe Dirt. It's the original.
The original.
Joe Dirt, yeah.
And then they went on. David Cross went on to create, because it was a skit on Mr. Show, I think, which was
I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Show was really good back in the day too with David Cross, and then I think it was an offshoot from that, and then they made a movie out of it. But yeah, I was here first, and they built a house around me.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
No, okay, so back to 52 blocks. They say that Jailhouse Rock was more conventional boxing. 52 blocks was a little bit more defensive stuff, because there's a lot of elbows involved, like high elbow blocks and stuff, which is a little bit reminiscent of Dustin Poirier's hillbilly shoulder roll.
Right.
Just to basically using your forearms and your elbows to cover up. A lot of the videos made the point that you're still able to use elbows whenever you're in handcuffs, whenever you're in shackles or whatever. You're able to cover and block with your elbows. So a lot of it was designed in order to do that.
Yeah, and you and I talked about it last night, about the idea that it originated from the slave trade, all the way back, where they were in shackles.
Yeah.
And they had to use defensive systems to protect themselves from beatings, whether it was from each other or from their owners or whatever. Because one of the videos I'd watched, he actually showed several different blocks that led to elbow strikes and stuff like that, with your hands being shackled together.
Right.
Defending against knives, things like that. What I thought was really interesting about it was the use of elbows, kind of like what you'd see in Muay Thai, but in a different way. Like the striking points were different, where you would use an elbow block to block a jab with the hopes that it would break their hand on your elbow, and follow it up with a secondary elbow strike to the face, to the neck, or whatever. Even using the elbows to block haymakers, and using the elbow to drive into the brachial artery on the bicep to disable the bicep.
Daniel Cormier does he's not really using his elbow, but it derives from, you'll see Jack Johnson do it from back in the day. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but
the guitar player?
Yeah. Jack Johnson, the boxer, whenever he was, that era of boxing actually looked a lot more like grappling from stand-up. They played a lot of dirty boxing. You could clinch for a lot longer. A lot of times you could, there wasn't like a standing 8 count. Like you'd knock somebody down and then wait for them to get back on their feet and immediately pounce on them again. Stuff like that. He uses this technique where basically he'll straighten his arm out, put his shoulder up to his ear. So when somebody punches, he ends up with an overhook. It's a little bit reminiscent of that as well. The elbows to breaking the hands. I think that makes a point to the shanks. One of the things that you have to consider in a penitentiary is people with shivs or shanks, and so using the elbows makes sense because you have to hide your forearms whenever you're working with knife defense and stuff. At least the soft part of your forearms, because that's where if you get cut there, there's arteries there and stuff.
Yes.
You want to hit that bony part. So using the elbows, again, goes into that.
Protecting that. And in the research that I was doing, and they talked about if you have a shiv and they have a shiv, using the elbow blocks and then setting up a slash of your own. And like I said, they kept going back to the inside of the bicep. I don't know why that was. Maybe it was because like I didn't see a lot of body strikes where you're like going to the sternum or the ribs or the stomach or anything like that. It was mostly like strikes to the face, strikes to the inside of the biceps.
I wonder how much of it has to do with the law. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how it works, but I mean, maybe if I stab you in the gut, I might get charged with attempted murder. If I stab you in the arm, it's like charged assault with and battery or something. I honestly have no clue, but
I don't either.
That would make sense if some rule is.
But I think maybe it goes back more to considering that this fighting style was in the prison systems, and the idea is that you're not fighting this guy because you had a disagreement over the way he looked at your girlfriend at the bar, and then the cops are going to swoop in and break it up. Like, you guys are fighting most likely in a secluded area because the intent is to kill the other person. And if you both have a shiv and I slash at your bicep, now you have one arm. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I stab you in the gut, people will fight on for an hour or two with gut wounds, with stomach wounds, slashes and things like that, but disabling your opponent's ability to fight back with you, I think, is a bigger part of why that was the case. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because there were neck strikes also with the elbows where you strike right to like the carotid artery.
Here's another thought is if they're considering that they need to protect themselves from guards, the guards have bulletproof vests on. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't make sense to try and stab them in the body. You'd go for arms and neck. Just devil's advocate thinking about different ideas. They had a couple of popular famous fighters. Remember we were talking about the rough and tumble. And another interesting thing that I thought was they considered there's an argument for this 52 blocks as the first American martial art, even though the two arguments are that it was originated. A lot of people don't realize that Africa has its own martial arts, and the only thing that is required for something to be considered a martial art is for it to be codified, so like a code system to the martial art. So it doesn't have to be from Asia or whatever; it can be from anywhere, but as long as it has a code system, I think a ranking structure is what goes into it as well. Then that makes it a martial art. So there's a lot of martial arts and fighting styles that came over from Africa with when we brought slaves over. And so a lot of that they think was developed and kind of brought up because of what the Americans did to African Americans throughout time, is put them into ghettos, then put them into penitentiaries and prisons. And so that allowed this system to brew and to be developed in a high stakes area that is being tested daily. Yeah,
I mean, if you think about it from that perspective, because when you hear about Asian martial arts and like kung fu and different things like that, a lot of those either were derived from the monks or they were derived from like a samurai type deal, but they were useful during that time. But as time progressed and samurais were no longer in play,
you're not sword fighting,
stuff like that. So then the art it carried over, but it lost its reality. Yeah. Which is why I think 52 blocks was so interesting, because the origin of the fighting style was really it was developed in violence, in Africa, where it was tribal, most likely, and they were defending themselves against other humans for survival. And then the slave trade did what it did and brought them here. And then they were again fighting for their own survival in a lot of situations. Yep. And then through systemic reasons, the way that They were, like you said, they were pushed into the ghettos, into the penal system. So it's almost one of the most pure forms of martial arts that has maintained its relevancy in reality, because its origins started in a place of violence and in a place of self-defense, true self-defense.
Yeah.
And then even up to this day, utilizing it in the prison systems like they're doing, it's maintained its roots and reality-based components, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas I think we can both agree that, most of your karate and taekwondo, and so, you ask any of your taekwondo and karate instructors, why are we doing this block and why are we doing this block? It's all a guess. Like, most of those people are guessing.
Yeah. So I've actually had this conversation before. One of the things that I really appreciate about my coach, Mr. Jing is a 9th degree taekwondo black belt, and he's done it. At this point, he's like, man, I've just done it so long, I might as well just keep doing it.
Yeah.
He's like one of the he's actually inducted into I think I've said it before, he's inducted in the Taekwondo Hall of Fame in Thailand. And there's like something like, I think 20 people are in the Hall of Fame at this point, and he's one of them out of the millions of people that are doing it. But anyways, he can break it down and show you where a lot of the katas and the moves originate, like why they were useful when they were developed, and then how you can adapt them now to be functional. And so I really like that, like, because he does like a lot of side kicks and a lot of stuff like that honestly I just can't do, and he makes them effective because he's competed with them and stuff. And a lot of the taekwondo techniques, the katas and stuff, for instance, like a karate chop to the throat, right? A lot of people don't realize if you have a blade in your hand, that looks a little really similar.
Right.
And so believe it or not, a quote unquote karate chop to the neck fucking hurts.
It does hurt.
It can put somebody down.
I've had it done.
It's called a brachial stun.
Yeah.
And like Thai clinch, that's how I always teach Thai clinch, like fucking karate chop the shit out of their neck, and you'll get them to move. Like they'll kind of fall a little bit when you do it. So some of that is really useful, but you have to understand the full origins and able to apply it and make use of it and throw away what's not necessary anymore. If you're carrying around a sword all day, then you have to make the techniques that you use useful for that sword. If you're not, then you have to change those. Yeah. Some of them might carry over. Some of them aren't going to.
Yeah, and with this, you mentioned the sword thing and saying, judo coming from the samurai fighting styles, it was applicable because the amount of armor that they wore, the amount of grips that you could have to do your throws and things like that. And I've only seen pictures of samurai armor and stuff like that, but there was a lot of hand placements that you could utilize to do throws. And there's a lot of things you weren't going to be able to get away with. Punching a samurai in the chest didn't do much because he's wearing chest plates,
right.
And a helmet and gear like that, Then we put a gi on, and then we still use the same grips, So I get it. If you look at judo as a self-defense system, if you toss a person on their head on the concrete, it's going to fuck them up.
Yeah.
But that's as far as it really goes.
Right.
Like there's the second that you start looking for the chokes and the arm locks and things like that, in my opinion, even with jiu-jitsu, and I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I'm saying this, there are pieces of jiu-jitsu that are just irrelevant in real self-defense scenarios.
Yeah.
I get people ask me all the time, like, hey man, you black belt in jiu-jitsu, what would you do if you were at a bar getting into a fight?
Run away.
I'm going to run. No,
yeah.
I tell everybody that the first thing I'm going to do is take my right leg and kick them in their left knee as hard as I possibly can and try to blow out their knee.
Yeah.
And that's not even a jiu-jitsu technique.
Right.
Right. And then really,
I don't know. I saw Hoist try to do that in UFC 1.
Well, I'm not talking about a front kick. I'm talking about like a side kick, like blow their MCL out. Grappling martial arts, although I do believe they're superior to many, many other martial arts, it's a good skill to have in your back pocket in the event that someone jumps on you or gets in your personal space. But if you don't have to grapple, why the fuck would you grapple?
Yeah. If you're in a multiple attacker scenario, absolutely not. Don't ever. If I have to neutralize one person, I'm okay with it. But I also use my grappling to prevent it from going to the ground. They shoot on me and I sprawl so I can take the back.
Like you did last night.
Spin, yeah.
You had some great sprawls.
Dude, Honestly, I was impressed
actually
with my hip there. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like, ooh.
Yeah. People forget that I know how to wrestle.
That's probably because
I had 10
you never
years,
display it.
I had 10 years of MMA. Yeah, well, because I'm 6'4". I'm not going to shoot on somebody. All of my
It's because you could just reach them.
Yeah, all of my wrestling is like Greco-Roman style wrestling, and that's why like I try to focus in the gi a lot on judo, like getting better at judo. I like it. I want to get like ranked in judo, but I don't have a judo coach.
I know. Well, Eric's a black belt in judo. He might be.
Yeah, I just don't go up enough.
If you want to learn how to do a fireman's carry, I'm your boy.
There's a couple people though that are known for it. There was one guy called Mother Deer, which I think is funny. A man named Mother Deer, and this was the 70s though.
Yeah.
So again, this is where you're gonna get your jive turkeys.
Yeah.
He
was a kind soul.
Yeah.
I always cook cornbread for everybody.
Hey, did you hear so and so called Mother Deer a jive turkey?
Did you fucking kill him?
Oh hell no. There's another guy named Glassman, Fat Cat, and True God. True God is a Wu-Tang member as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that's where he got the name or if maybe that's even him, because they bring up 52 Blocks in Wu-Tang lyrics. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
And apparently there's a connection with Queens, New York, and 52 Blocks.
Yeah, I saw that on one of the videos that I was researching. There's a boxing gym there in Queens, New York. And there happens to be a guy there who continues to teach 52 Blocks as part of the boxing curriculum.
Yeah.
And you know, he showed some of the moves on the heavy bag and stuff like that. And what I liked about that particular guy is he showed a lot of the techniques and then explained exactly why you would utilize them, and it made sense.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, oh, you know, I'm gonna going back to the karate katas and stuff like that. You know, all of those techniques have a purpose. We just may not know what they are.
Right.
But that was what I really liked about him showing. I can't remember what he called it. It was like the flying bird or something like that. It looked like you were making like the shadow puppet with bird with your hand. Oh. But it was with your shackled, you know, and you do that, and it allows you to be able to defend knife defense.
Yeah.
You know, knife attacks.
There was one called and we're gonna learn. I've already committed. We're gonna learn all 52 blocks, and we're going to put them up on our Patreon. So if you want to learn the 52 blocks from Jonny and Mitch, get on our Patreon, because we're going to be
one of the videos I watched, he just literally just danced around for a little bit and called it 52 blocks. So I could do that, and no one's going to know the difference.
One of the guys sells like a DVD that teaches all of it. I want to buy it. I could probably find it on the internet somewhere.
I believe that you can. And then that guy he's literally sitting on his couch in a double wide, and he gets
listening
a check.
To this.
Yeah, he's gonna get a check for the one DVD that you bought.
Yeah,
he's gonna be like, "Oh,
subscribe to our Patreon. We're gonna buy that DVD." No, it's applicable. I truly would like to learn it, because it seems useful and it's interesting. The history behind it is really interesting to me. It's got a lot more recorded history than Rough and Tumble.
Yeah, obviously.
Because of the time period. And
then the relevancy that it's continuing to have.
And socially too. Yeah. Like one of the most interesting things, this article that I was reading, I gotta start writing down the links and stuff to share it. They were talking about when African American fighters started getting popular in boxing at the turn of the century, whenever like Jack Johnson started, you know, when he became champion and stuff. They think because we had put them in the ghettos, we had put them through slavery, we had put them in prisons. Like Jack Johnson was he was a convict. He was in jail for a while. They learned these blocks there, and they developed them, and they developed their reflexes in a high stakes arena that put them above everyone else. When the white fighters got in there, they couldn't hang with them, because they hadn't been put in these life or death scenarios to develop those reflexes.
And they weren't exposed to the techniques themselves.
And only the best came out. You know what I'm saying? So like only the best of the best survived.
Well, it was like Mandingo fighting.
Mandingo fighting?
You don't know anything about that?
No.
I know you're thinking about the porn star right now.
All I'm thinking about is just two big old wieners slapping against each other.
So Mandingo fighting, if you've ever seen... They really actually talk a lot of... It's a big center point in the movie Django Unchained. But it was a lot of grappling, but slave owners would take these big giant African American guys and they would make them fight each other almost to the death, and they'd place bets on them. It was human cockfighting in the very beginning.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that. I mean, it makes sense that people would do that.
But it was super disgusting. Yeah, because like they would be in their mansions. They'd like spread the furniture out, and they'd all sit around in their little smoking rooms, and then these two black guys are just mauling each other. And the idea is that like if you win, you get to eat in the house. It's really fucked up.
That's insane.
Super fucked up. But it was, again, like you said, the only people who made it out were the best fighters, the biggest, the strongest, the best cardio. And so it gave these fighters an incentive, because to them it wasn't a career, but it was an incentive to be like, well, tonight I get to sleep in the house. I don't have to sleep in the quarters, or I get to eat a hot meal. I'm not just getting scraps pulled off the table. So there was this survival incentive to do Mandingo fighting.
That's wild.
And they would trade Mandingo fighters just like they would in the slave trade. You could trade them like on a baseball team, and then they would go and buy them and carry them around with them all over the country and put them in fights all over the country, all over the South, and which wouldn't be a bad topic for a future episode.
Mandingo fighting?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And since we started doing this podcast, it's kind of forced me to look outside the box of these different fighting styles, which is kind of what one of our premises is for the podcast. And I think maybe that's where some of my shift, even in my own martial arts journey, has gone to the more combative style martial arts, because one of the episodes we're going to do in the future is over a Native American fighting style. Yeah. And then when you start reading about these Native American fighting styles and you watch these videos and things like that, and it really takes you out of the Asian stronghold, because the Asian community, I shouldn't say that. It's not like a group of Asians.
I think the American community or the American people have romanticized
the Asian
martial arts so much. Yeah.
And really, if you look at the other martial arts that came out of other cultures, like the Native American cultures and the African American cultures,
the African cultures. I'm sorry, you're right. It's more in line with what you would expect out of the American culture. The practicality, the violence of the styles. Yeah. I mean, look how big mixed martial arts became, and it's extremely violent if you consider it in an argument state against an Asian martial art. Asian martial arts had this secretive veil where, like, you're doing it almost like this hidden dragon, crouching tiger kind of thing. The rest of America, like Abe Lincoln and all these different figureheads, are doing Greco-Roman wrestling, and they're these really close, in-your-face fighting styles, which is really what I think a big part of American culture grew up on. But then we had the Asian invasion, Yeah. So I think it appeals to, like, Americans want the magic technique too. They want that one thing that's just going to work. Not that karate or whatever has done that in history. It's actually the Americans that have forced that on ourselves. We're so eager for it that we've basically conned ourselves, opened ourselves up for people to come in and manipulate us.
What's funny about that, because whenever I think about the way that Americans kind of exploited the Asian martial arts, a lot of people don't realize the Gracie family did the exact same thing. Yeah. They did the exact same thing when Maeda came to Japan, or came to Brazil, But the Gracies looked at it the same way the Americans do and go, oh, I have this secret information that came from the Far East, where they're hidden behind the Great Wall and this veil of secrecy. But I know these special techniques, and I'm willing to teach it to you for a very nominal fee. Yeah. And that the Americans did the same thing. Mm-hmm. They really did. Not to say there wasn't honor and stuff involved in that.
We're still doing the same thing. We're trying to do it with MMA, trying to codify, and which is funny because, like, the name mixed martial arts is telling you that it is not a singular martial art. Correct. It cannot be a singular martial art. Mm-hmm. And so you cannot codify and put a ranking structure to it.
In my opinion, if somebody were to come up to me, because now you can do this. Before you couldn't do this, but if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, what three martial arts should I focus on if I wanted to be the most well-rounded fighter and practical self-defense. I would have
ever heard Joe Rogan talk.
Yeah. So for me, it would be Muay Thai, wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So if you really focus on those 3 martial arts, you would easily be able to well-round yourself in a self-defense aspect.
Now, I feel you. Those are the 3 primary ones that I would as well. But the whole game behind mixed martial arts is I'm going to blend these 3 styles. You blend those 3 styles. And let's see.
That's what I was going to say.
It originated with here's one style versus another style.
Right.
And then it was like, okay, now I have boxing and wrestling versus jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And then now it's become, now I have boxing, wrestling, Muay Thai, and I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt against your taekwondo, jiu-jitsu. And, you know, people are adding in just a little bit extra spice. And you are seeing things like TJ Dillashaw and Dominic Cruz who are taking it to kind of another level where they're developing an entirely different style of kickboxing and wrestling specifically catered for
Rory McDonald. I remember they were talking about this when he first started fighting in the UFC.
He was the first generation
of mixed martial artists,
right?
Whereas everybody else had started as boxing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's that guy's name? Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah,
he was a pure boxer,
mm-hmm.
and then he, went to that. TJ Dillashaw was a wrestler. But Rory McDonald was one of the first that he started his martial arts journey in an MMA gym and started learning MMA as his first martial art. He was a true pioneer there. And what's awesome about that, and it started out with, okay, we're going to take a boxer and a grappler and we're going to make them fight. But then what happened was the boxer loses and goes, well, fuck, I don't want to lose again. I got to learn how to keep this guy from grappling with me. So what does he do? He goes and learns a couple of sprawls. Well, now the guy can't take me down. And so now you have a boxer who has a good sprawl. Well, then the jiu-jitsu guy goes, well, shit, now I can't take him down.
I've talked to, yes, I know exactly where you're going with this.
So now what do I have to do? Well, then that jiu-jitsu guy goes, okay, well, I'm going to go learn single legs and I'm going to go learn some Muay Thai so that I can use my distance to get in on sides.
You can see what the next trend is going to be by what the current trend is. If it's, for a while it was, a high-level wrestler will be a boxer. Mm-hmm. And then the boxers learned how to sprawl. Then the high-level boxers started beating the wrestlers. Wrestlers started learning how to box, so on and so forth. Now it's gotten to a point where I'm watching the kickboxers, say like Dominic Cruz has gotten to an extremely high level of kickboxing. And after that, I said a really high-level pure boxer will beat him. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that was the next step, was Cody Garbrandt came around and beat him, a high-level pure boxer. Then whenever he was popular, I figured that TJ Dillashaw was going to beat him because he has that hybrid kickboxing. Yeah. That is the next level up from Dominic Cruz. And so it's going to take and they have to have the wrestling to back it up. They have to have the jiu-jitsu, otherwise it won't work. But it's going to take another extremely high-level boxer that's like on that next level. Who's that guy recent that was like doing fucking backflips?
I saw the video, but I can't think of his name.
Favorite fighter of all time.
He literally did a backflip over a guy to pass his guard.
2 favorite fighters of all time is now that guy and Charles Crazy Horse Bennett.
Yeah.
I fucking love that dude.
It makes you wonder, like in 10 years or 5 years even, you're going to have guys utilizing 52 blocks, and you're going to have like brachial artery strikes with the elbows.
They were mentioning Kimbo Slice as a very 52 block style fighter.
Yeah, he really was, because he did a lot of comb the hair type.
Yeah, his elbows are up real high. Rashad Evans had brought it up. Mm-hmm. Mike Tyson and not Amir Khan. I can't remember the other.
Well,
fighter.
Mike Tyson,
Zab Judah.
Mike Tyson. I don't think he had a whole lot of high elbow stuff, but he had he kept everything in tight.
Right. Well, they were quoted. They were quoted on the legitimacy of 52 blocks. Mm-hmm. Mike Tyson was one of them that was like, yeah, no, it's a thing, and it's something that we use and train
for sure
for this. I don't think he was really a 52 block style fighter, but I think he definitely used those techniques and saw their
efficacy.
Yeah. So what do you think about? I had a blue belt that was talking to me about this the other day. He was noticing. I think we've all noticed that like a lot of times black belt matches will be a lot slower and more paced than a white belt, blue belt, you know,
for
all
sure.
the way up. And I think here's my theory behind it: is we've focused so much time on being 2 steps ahead that when we get in there, when I'm in there and I'm grappling, I know the next 2 steps, whether they're good or bad for me.
Right.
And he knows the next 2 steps, the good and the bad for him. So I know in what position I need to be in order to start to get 2 steps ahead, right? Like, for instance, like I like to long step pass, like that, that back step, long step or whatever. If I'm in the daily Hiva and they have a hold of my ankle, I have to do one style. If they, I can't do my normal long step Terere style pass. And so if I'm in that position, they hold my ankle, I'm not going to explode into my pass. I've got to be patient and wait for my opportunity. Wait for him to let go of that ankle, maybe reach for a collar, and then I go for it or something. That's my philosophy behind it. It's you work so hard to be 2 steps ahead that then you are seeing a little bit almost into the future. You know what the next 2 steps are.
And I'll use my fight with Eric last night as an example. Once I got the throw, I normally immediately go into a passing game. Like I've hit that throw 1,000 times. And so when I hit the throw on him, I would normally have immediately gone into passing. Mm-hmm. But what threw me off was when he came back up and regained his guard, he used his right leg to put a De La Hiba hook in. Most people use their left leg.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something, maybe Eric just does that. I don't know.
I can't remember if he's left-handed or not.
I don't know.
I think he might be.
But I just know that normally I'm so used to turning my right knee out to defend the De La Hiva and passing to the left, my left, that when he put his De La Hiva in on my left leg, it jacked my balance up. Mm-hmm. And so it like scrambled my brain where I started looking for, I focused more on stabilizing a really solid grip game because I had to start thinking about how was I going to manipulate this pass.
Yeah.
And he ended up sweeping me off of that hesitation. I knew what options were there. I knew what sweeps were available. I knew what I needed to be doing, but it's like my brain scrambled out of control and I couldn't get my hand placement where I wanted it to feel comfortable.
Yeah. And he knows that he can't sweep you until you show that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're keeping good base, good posture and hand grips, he's not going to explode into that. It's not going to be this cat fight until it needs to be a cat fight, you know.
We're always looking for the next movement. We expect things to happen a very specific way.
And I think the trick is getting you to believe that I'm going to go for the omoplata and then I go for something entirely different. And if I can recognize that he's thinking that omoplata is coming, he thinks I'm going to try to replace guard and do the normal thing,
right?
But I'm going to chicken wing him.
I'm going to chicken wing this
throw
motherfucker
him over my shoulder.
And I think that's where the difference between playing checkers and playing chess, right? So checkers is pretty easy. You know, it's forward and backwards. That's it. You know, it's a 2-move game. But that's where a lot of times people equate jiu-jitsu to chess. But I think they're just saying it because they've heard other people say it. But they don't truly understand what they're talking about. And the truth is like you said, like you have to mind fuck that guy into thinking that you're doing what he expects you to do and then don't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
something entirely different.
Yeah. But what I teach my students all the time about human nature when I'm teaching different techniques and the way that I set things up and I'm teaching them in class is I tell them that humans are stupid.
Yeah.
We are dumb. And we're so dumb, in fact, that we're creatures of habit. Mm-hmm. And whether we want to do it or not, in jiu-jitsu, if I pass the guard and establish side control, you're gonna do the same escape every time.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not. Very few people have some weird hidden way they escape side control. Mm-hmm. And what do? I wait for them. We wait for them to escape in the exact manner that we know they're going to do it. And then we set up our back take. We set up this. We set up that, right? I attack the neck for the collar choke. What do? You defend with your hands. Well, I didn't want the choke. I wanted the arm lock, but I needed you to lift your elbow.
Right. And
you're going to lift your elbow every time because humans are stupid. Every time.
It's one of the funny things about when I teach kickboxing is like the best way to get somebody to throw a leg kick is kick them.
Yeah.
kick them in the leg, and it's so stupid. Everybody's like, "Oh, I can do that too."
We do we do the same thing in grip fighting.
Yeah.
If I grab your lapel, whether you want to, you may not have a single fucking judo technique in your arsenal, but if I grab a hold of your collar, you grab mine every time.
Yeah.
You were doing a snap down on Jeremy last night, and I just remember thinking, like, I don't think Jonny knows judo, so what is he doing? Like, and
I do know judo.
I guess I just never seen you
Most
display
people
it.
don't think I know a buttload of stuff about judo, but I do.
I know a buttload, but it was just funny because as soon as you grabbed his lapel, he grabbed your lapel, and everybody does it. It's a weird, unconscious thing that we do. And TJ Brown, he's coming off of, like, other than his submission that he got in the Contender Series, the last 2 fights were knockouts off the same head kick setup that he had been using, and it's so. You go back and watch it in slow motion, and what he does is he sets it up off of a punch, and the guy goes to slip and he head kicks him. So he literally slips directly into the head kick and knocks him unconscious. And it goes back to
part of it is he gets him to circle in a certain direction too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a big piece of that is because you train boxing over and over again, and you know that when the one comes, the two's coming, and then you're going to slip it this way, and it's a pattern.
Yeah.
Because humans are stupid, we fall into those patterns. And then, and TJ has exploited that pattern very well. Bill Barton, he's really worked with TJ on that stuff, and it's paid out in dividends.
Yeah.
You know?
People don't realize that, like, your position alone in relation to another human being will set you up for good defense and good offense. Just if you have somebody standing in front of you where you're standing at in relation to them, the easiest way to describe it is range. If I'm out of range for you, if I'm out of your reach, you can't punch me.
Right.
If I have longer arms, I want to be in a position where I'm out of your reach but within my reach. And then if you add on top of that the angles, and then when you add on top of that, like being on the inside of the cage, like being in the middle of the cage, controlling that or controlling the outside, which way they clock to, and throwing which techniques in that manner. The jab, cross hook, rear tie kick, this is a great combo, but I have to be able to use it to set up that next technique. I have to understand the flow of that technique. Oh, I almost forgot. We did a album review.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. I totally spaced that. I can't believe I forgot.
I didn't. I just was waiting for you to bring it up.
Yeah. Oso Oso, Basking in the Glow. I'm really excited about this one. I'll let you go ahead and start because then.
Well, so I wasn't familiar with Oso Oso, so I had to go listen to him, and I'm glad that I did. Immediately. So what's interesting is I started listening to them without looking them up. So I wanted to listen to them without knowing where they were from. I didn't even want to know if they were American or not. I just wanted to go listen to the album. And when I was listening, I started hearing a hint of a familiar sound. And they're, like I said, they're a very, very good band. I was really happy that we covered this. And I started listening and I said, man, this has remnants of like a New Jersey sound. Like I started hearing like that because New Jersey has a very specific style that came out of that time frame. Drive Through Records is that a New Jersey area? They're up in that area. I don't know if it's New Jersey specifically, but they had like bands like Early November came off that, Census Fails came off of that, a couple other bands came off that record.
November was so good.
They were really good. And I always thought that the lead singer had a cool name. His name was I think it was his first or last name was Enders or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I remember thinking that was super cool. But when I started listening to the band, I said, man, these guys really have a New Jersey sound. And I looked them up, and sure enough, they're actually from the New Jersey area.
Yeah. They said it was like the bio or whatever said it was a project from Jade Elitri, and they said it like we're supposed to know who that is. Well, I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
Jade Elitri. I was gonna look him up, but then I remembered that I didn't care that much to know about Jade. But dude, this album is like solid front to back.
Yes.
Really good. And I've been a fan of Oso Oso for a little while. They've had they have some really good stuff that's come out in the past, but it's been a little bit hit or miss.
I don't want to get yelled at by anybody. They're actually from Long Beach, New York, not New Jersey.
Well, guess where I'm not from, so I don't give a shit.
That's right.
Yeah, like I said, the album was just fantastic front to back. A couple standout tracks. Their title track, Basking in the Glow, was probably my favorite.
That's the first one that I listened to.
So catchy. I've had it stuck in my head for weeks. It's much more mellow than Knocked Loose.
Yeah.
Than the last
Which I was
album
super
review
happy
we
that
did.
you did, because I didn't even have to go look at the lyrics, because the band was actually really good that I didn't give a fuck about the lyrics.
Yeah.
With Knock Loose, I was like, maybe their lyrics are really going to set them
redeeming
apart.
quality.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I think we found that out on the last episode.
Yeah, it's catchy as shit too, and that's all that
I know.
That's all that I want. Do you have any other songs that you liked off of it?
I didn't. So when I was listening to it, I didn't listen to it on Spotify. I actually I just Googled the band,
Okay.
and then clicked on the listen here, and then just let the record play.
Okay, yeah.
And so I didn't really take any title tracks or anything like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'll do. I'll listen to the full album, and then when I hear something that I like, I'll go. I'm usually like mopping the mat, so I'll go over and look at the iPad and see what song it is.
One of the things I liked about some of their other records is I always like when bands have like really cool names for different things, you know?
Yeah.
And they had another record. It was their first record. It was called Real Stories of True People Who Kind of Look Like Monsters.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's super good.
That
That's
album
super cool.
that album is really good.
Yeah.
Too. It's got one of my favorite songs on it actually. The View was another good song on that album. Anyways, I'd give it like, I wouldn't say it's definitely a couple of the songs are going to be in my heavy rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10.
I would give that for sure. I wouldn't give them, and the thing is I don't even know.
Maybe lower, like maybe an 8.
I'd give them a 7
7.5.
or an 8.
Yeah.
For anybody who's a fan of Brand New, even early Taking Back Sunday, just about any of the
anything catchy pop punk.
Yeah.
kind of
So,
stuff.
and I'm a sucker for pop songs.
It is. It was. I did notice it's a very bubblegum sound.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a lot. Some of the previous albums were a little bit more depressing. This was much more poppy and upbeat.
Yes, but I would highly recommend anybody who has an interest in any of the bands off Drive Through Records or any of the bands that we mentioned before.
What
Like,
was the other one? Fueled by Ramen.
yeah, Fueled by Ramen was another one. That was Fall Out Boy's first record.
Yeah.
Came off that. And that, speaking of bands who had, in my opinion, cool names, they had a song called Parker Lewis Can't Lose, which I thought was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not familiar with who Parker Lewis is, it was a show on TV back in the day. It was a really funny show.
I never watched it.
God damn it.
Sorry.
It's nostalgic as The Goonies, but it's okay.
Really?
Yeah. Like Parker Lewis Can't Lose was the name of the show. It was on the USA channel, and it had this guy, and it was like, he was like the Zach Morris of the high school, and he got into all kinds of kooky, quirky little adventures.
Yeah.
So,
Have you ever seen Zach Morris's Trash?
yeah.
Dude, I love those.
It's
They like go through in detail all of the shitty.
he was like a
things.
rapist, and like,
Yeah. There was a girl that like saved his life and then he dumped her.
yeah, like I think it's on
Funny or Die.
Amazon or Funny or Die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody should go check that out, because they really take like all of, because I used to watch that show growing up. I watched it every morning before I got on the bus to go to school, and I was like, oh, I love this show. And then when I went back and watched those, where they actually take like all these really fucked up episodes where Zach did some shitty stuff. Like there was one where he was he did the dating thing where like you could pay to date like Jesse Spano and stuff. Like he was prostituting them.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
pimping them out.
Have you seen the Between Two Ferns movie on Netflix?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's good.
I've watched
It's
a ton of Between Two Ferns episodes.
Yeah, you'll get everything that you want out of this movie then.
Oh,
It's
that's
funny.
awesome.
He does like, he interviews Benedict Cumberbatch and gets his name wrong like 15 hilarious times, you know? And then somebody tries to talk to him about it and he's like, guys, it's Dickersnatch McCumberbutt. Come on, guys, get the name right.
Somebody said that, see, now I'm going to fuck his name up. Benedict
Cumberdick's number snatch.
They said that he looks like he just got stung by a bee and is having an allergic reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's good. Yeah, that album though, we got off track again. That album is it's a solid one. For
I would
sure.
agree. And I would, like I said,
I did get, dude, nobody can wear out an album or a song like I can, and I got tired of it pretty quickly.
Oh, really?
After a couple days. It's stuck in my head for sure. It's catchy as hell, but usually I'll take like 1 or 2 songs from an album, put it in my playlist, and just listen to it until I die. And this one, I'm kind of already like, oh.
I went through a what I call a stop beat phase.
Stop beat.
Stop beat. It's not a real music genre, but it was a genre that I created. I say I created it. I put bands into stop beats. So like Alt J was a band that I put into that category because of the way that their music kind of had like this
It's like a bleep, bleep
pentatonic
bleep,
type.
bleep.
Yeah. So I got really into one of those phases. And so you talk about heavy rotation that you like. I really fell in love with like Fitz Pleasure and Breeze Block by Alt J, two great songs.
Alt J is fantastic.
Fantastic. And then now I have to really be in the mood to hear one of those songs because I played it out so hard.
I used what was it? I think Breeze Blocks as my highlight.
Yeah, you did.
Video.
Yeah, because I remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to become friends with this guy.
I used to have their vinyl, and that was the whole reason that I was listening to that vinyl a lot. And I was like, dude, because he even talks about martial arts, and he says triangles are my favorite shape. I timed it to where I was triangling somebody.
That's awesome.
I thought it was clever. I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted too. Like we had a pretty long weekend because I drove up to go weigh in on Friday. So I cut weight Friday for my fight. I didn't have to cut a lot. I had to cut like 10 pounds. But I immediately remembered why I stopped cutting weight. And it was only 10 pounds. I was super hungry all day Friday. I weighed in.
It doesn't matter how much you cut weight. Like,
it always sucks.
It sucks. No matter. I've cut 2 pounds and had to like stop drinking water all day, and it sucks. There's different phases that you hit of being miserable, and like I've cut weight a lot of times, and I've cut a lot of weight. My entire amateur career was at 155 pounds.
What's the most weight you've cut for an event?
My MMA fights, I was walking, or as an amateur, I was walking around about 172 and cutting to 155.
Oh wow! So that's that's 20.
And most of the time, I would end up like 24 hours. I would do about 15 to 16 pounds.
In the beginning of my jiu-jitsu career, I would cut weight because it was like this tough guy. Like, you know, you were like, oh man, like the grind of cutting weight.
Like,
you know,
people are stupid about it.
So
they
stupid.
want to do it.
No, I never want to cut weight again.
Terrible.
I fucking hate it. And when I was a blue belt, I was walking around at probably about 167 at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to cut to 149.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
I did it in one day.
Yeah.
Went one day. So I cut 17, 18 pounds in one fucking day. And then I didn't know anything because nobody had ever taught me how to rehydrate. Nobody had ever taught me how to like do anything. I went, I cut all that weight. It was fucking terrible. I weighed in. I'm so thirsty and so hungry that we go to the restaurant and I order like a Dr. Pepper and some cheese sticks.
Yeah.
And I drank the Dr. Pepper so fast because I was so thirsty that I couldn't eat anything.
Yeah.
And then I ate like 5 cheese sticks. That was my rehydration process, you know? And so the next day, I mean, I put the weight back on, but I felt like dog shit.
My first loss as an amateur, I had gone and rehydrated.
Is that when you got knocked out?
Yeah.
And then your mom got mad at you too?
Yeah. I was telling this story the other day. My mom gets on YouTube and goes, the least you could do is spell his name right. I freak out on my mom, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get off of YouTube. Stop commenting on there. So she gets back on to retract her previous statement. Instead of deleting that statement, she puts another comment below that says, my son told me that I was being disrespectful and shouldn't be, and should
delete the comment
or apologize or something. And I was like, oh my God, my mom has got to learn how to use the internet or social media in general. That's why the old people are on Facebook. That's why we just send them to Facebook.
Just send them to Facebook.
Keep them there. But yeah, so when I had rehydrated that the night before, we had Olive Garden. That was like the tradition. Something happened, dude. I ate too fast or something. We're on the highway on the way back, and I was like, guys, I don't feel good. I need to pull over. And, like, I'm gonna throw up. I get out of the car. I swear to God, my mouth looked like it was like a cartoon vomit, like off the side of the highway. Like the dude that was standing next to me said my mouth opened up like it was like you could fit like a gallon jug inside my mouth. It was just like blah.
Yeah.
Threw up everything I had, and I was like, oh damn, that sucks. Well, get in the car, go back, and proceed as usual. Instead of realizing that I had just dehydrated myself again and taken all of that food out. In that fight, he hit me with like a jab and I saw like white. I was like, oh, that's not good. Either he's really strong or I'm not feeling good. And he was really strong. And I had no wrestling, nothing. My striking was terrible at the time. He finally just clocked me with an overhand right and I went down. Yeah, that was a rough one. I could have been in some serious trouble had anything else gone wrong, really. Had it gone any other way. That's the problem with those events too, is like either you try to make it too much of an event where you go to like fucking Applebee's to weigh in, and I've had this happen. We're at like some family like bar, like a sports bar, doing weigh-ins, and the people that are eating at the restaurant don't realize that a bunch of MMA fighters are about to strip their clothes off and weigh in up on a stage. And I've literally had a soccer mom leave her table to come over to the thing and start taking pictures of me as I'm on the scale, like damn near butt ass naked, and just being like, ooh, like taking pictures. And like the next guy comes, like, no. And the next one, like, yes, please, click. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I think it's funny that your impression of her is also my impression of Zachary from West Side. Yes, please.
Yes, please. Well, that's my impression of me, honestly. Like my students know that I'm the biggest queen on the mat. Well, I think it's time to wrap it up.
All right, homie.
Make sure that you subscribe to our Patreon. We also want to thank one more time all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you for everybody that supports us. And also a special shout out to Daniel Trimble donating a third microphone so we can start interviewing people and so on and so forth. So thank you, Daniel. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. We have a Spotify playlist that I'll be updating soon with the tracks that we've been talking about.
Oh so.
So go listen to that. Follow that playlist. Like I said, we are on the road to $100 on Patreon. As soon as we get that, we will start releasing more consistent videos as well as the entire video from our podcasts. Right now, we edit a lot of this, so we take out a lot of stuff and it would look goofy on film to do that. But we're fine-tuning our process and getting it all down and trying to figure out. So hopefully everybody can grow with us with the process.
And we really enjoy when the listeners send us messages on topics that they want us to discuss. Jonny and I always have a rough idea, and it's fairly organized on what we're going to discuss, how we're going to discuss it. But the organicy of having listener questions, really, it's, you and I don't talk a lot about these things prior to recording. And so the organic of it is really awesome. I had no idea that we had listeners' questions. So it was really cool to be able to get those. So those of you guys out there listening, send us your questions. DM me on Instagram. DM Jonny on Instagram. DM the podcast page.
Yeah,
we're both on Reddit.
Share with your friends too. We're at the point now where we've got a group of listeners, but in reality, it's mostly people that we know. So we're really trying to expand our listener group. Try to share it with your friends. Talk about it. Tell other people about it, and let's try to grow this into something. I think we're off to a good start.
Excellent.
So awesome. We will catch you next time for episode 5.
See you.